Hello, so now what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to use OpenModelica to call uh, data from an Excel file. Okay, so for example, here we have a model, um, and in this model I have different elements, um, but these elements to run in a simulation they need boundary conditions. And these conditions can be external temperature, can be external energy fluxes, heat fluxes, can be I don't know some uh, signals 1010. But all these boundary conditions have a dependency on time. So how do we call data from an Excel to use it in the model as boundary conditions? Is by means of this element, which is called combine table, which is placed in Modelica block source combine table. So if, for example, we come here, this is an example, and we come again to Modelica blocks, sources, and combine table. So we're going to put this like this, and we have it here. Okay. So we have this in this example, and if we make a double click, here we can find all the elements that are needed to put to call the file that is going to contain the boundary conditions. Here we put true, here we put table 1, and the file that we're going to call must be placed in this in a certain file, but the file that we're calling is a txt file. Okay, and where is this txt? And here we have 290. So the first thing that you have to take into account is when you put the file, the path doesn't have to have spaces because it's gonna make a problem, I think. So the path no spaces is just all the time a character. And for example, if we call here, we have in this path on file mode this data in the text file, and we call it, and it's going to be okay, and we put okay, okay, and we set the the txt file. So if we open the txt file, what it has inside it, so here it is. We're going to make it a bit clearer. All right, so here we have all the data that is going to be used as boundary conditions, and the first column is the time. So in this case, it's an hourly time. The time is in seconds. It's an hourly step time from 0 3600 until the last step, the final time. And the other columns are the boundary conditions, the data that we want to introduce to OpenModelica. But what you have to notice is that this is a text file, and the decimal separation is done by a point, not by the comma. I don't know how to say it in English. And the space is the space is a tab space. So what do we have in the first? What all the files that we call with OpenModelica, they have to start with this sign and 1. The second thing that they have to have in the second line is this double table 1 and two numbers that we're going to display. So table 1 is going to be written here. Table 1, and here we write table 1. Okay. And 19 is the number of columns in total. So here, after this, we have this symbol and the dial symbol, and all that comes after, it's commentary. It doesn't have it's not colored by OpenModelica. It's just some comments that you can put for a better understanding. Here, for example, I put the name of the columns. So I have 18 columns of data, but also I have this column, the first one, which is time. So in total we have 18 here plus 1, 19. So the 19 is all the columns that are in the text file, including the time. Okay, so this 19 is gonna be put also here, and in this interface of OpenModelica, we're going to start from the second column, because the time is going to be already considered by OpenModelica in his simulation. So when we called boundary conditions, we called from the second column, from 2 to 19. Okay, so we called from the boundary condition, that it is in this case is external temperature, to the last column, and the first column we don't consider it. That's the first element, 70 to 1, is gonna be the number of lines that are in this file. So from 0 to the last time, which is this one, there are 721 lines, and that's what we put here. And after that, remember that this commentary, we put all the data. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to explain you how to build this txt file that is gonna be called by OpenModelica. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do now. But before that, I'm gonna launch a simulation. For example, here the initial time is 0, the last time, the final time is this one. We're gonna copy it, and we remember that the step time is 1 hour. So we close this, and we already defined the path. There's nothing else. Okay, and we're going to simulate this. So we go here to simulation, configuration, and we're gonna set the final time, which I already put it, the initial time, and the step time interval 300, which is 1 hour in seconds. And we're gonna launch the simulation. Put OK. It's gonna use the data from the external txt file. And it's gonna finish the simulation. This is the simulation finished successfully, and here we have the data, right? So again, you have to remember that when we launch the simulation, we have to define the step time the same that is going to be indicated in that text file which contains the boundary condition. So there was 1 hour in seconds, and here we put 1 hour in seconds. That's the condition. Next, another thing that we have to take into account. So we launch the simulation, we have the data, and we can here obtain what we want, for example, temperatures and whatever. But what we have to take into account is that the outlet by default of OpenModelica is going to be a file called math. In this case, or OpenModelica is called this, and the name of the outlet file is going to be the same name slash res mat dot mat. Okay. But where is this play? Where it is this? And to find this file, we have to go to um, users. In this case, the name of the name of the account. In this case, is administrator, but you can have your name or whatever name. And here we have to show all the hidden elements. Okay. And after we go to this one, app data, we go to local, we go to temp, and we look for OpenModelica, which must be here. Edit, and this is the name of the file, and here is the file that has been created, which is it must be a mat file, right? I think it's this one. So what we do is when we can do it's just come here, for example, oh no, and make a shortcut, and we put it here, for example, right? So each time we want the file, we can do this, right? So why do you explain this? Because sometimes we don't want to have this mat file as an outlet, but we want a CSV, an Excel file, which is going to contain all the outlet data from the simulation of OpenModelica. So in this case, we make OK, we launch the simulation again, but this time it's going to create an Excel file which contains all the outlet data. Okay. Simulation finished successfully, and it's gonna give you, and this time it's a CSV file, and this one is going to be as we indicated here. Okay, and here is the data that we look. So we can copy this, we can paste it here in the, I'm going to explore. We come here, data. This comma, finish. And here we have all the data that has been created by the OpenModelica simulation, right? So it's a lot of data. Here's the time, and what you have to take into account is that by default it gives the same data 2 times for each step time. So you have to make some treatment to just work with these ones, which doesn't have the 0, because they are the same, and these two are the same. Okay, so that's how you obtain a CSV file from OpenModelica as an outlet. Don't save. So finally, what we're going to do is we're going to display how to create this txt file that is called for using boundary conditions. So if we go to the directory where I have this data, which is here, I already showed you that it has a particular layout. So what we have to do is, and it's the way I do it, but you can make it better by an automatization process. It's up to you. But here, for example, I have a file where I put all the boundary conditions. The time, and that time again, but this time in seconds, from 0 to the last time. And here I have all the data that, all the columns with the boundary conditions. Right? So in this case, the decimal is separated by this comma. But in the text file, we don't have a comma. We have dots separated. So what we have to do is we have to create another file, and again we just need the data. We don't need to copy these columns. Remember that in that text file there are comments. So we just need this data. So what I usually do is I create another file that in this case I'm gonna call this, and here I'm just gonna put all the data that is relevant. So in this case the column times from 0 and all the data. And what I do is I'm gonna make it again. I delete everything just to make it again. I copy all the data. I paste it, and here is here is the decimals are in comma. So what I do is replace, and I'm gonna replace everything by a dot. Let's replace all, and it's gonna replace everything. And once it's replaced, I'm just gonna save this file. Alright, and saved, and I close. So so what next? I'm gonna open again this, but as I said, I need this in text file. So what I do is I come here, save as, browse, here in the same, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna save it as a text file, but in tab delimited, because there is also in space delimited, but I want in tab delimited. I'm gonna put another name, for example, GG. Save, okay, yes, and I close this and I put don't save. Okay, and here I have what I created, and it's in the layout that I want, but it doesn't have the heads, the text that is needed by OpenModelica. So what I do is I come here and I copy all of these. Right. I'm sure that there is no space. And I save it. And now I have my new TX file that's gonna be called by OpenModelica. And that's it. So close this, I can replace this by this one, for example. So I'm gonna make an example. What's the name of this? It's right. So I'm gonna come here. I'm just gonna change the name. Oh well, it doesn't matter. Right. I'm gonna launch the simulation. This is the fastest. simulation finished successfully, and it's gonna show me again the data, and it's in CSV as we defined it before. So again, we created a TX file and we launched the simulation. So this is the way how you create a link between an Excel file and OpenModelica to introduce data. Hope it's useful for you, and thank you for watching.